Good evening. Welcome to Athens City Council. Tonight is Monday, April 18th, 2011. This evening, City Council is meeting in regular session. We do have a quorum with all members of City Council present. The next item on our agenda is disposition of minutes from the regular sessions held on March 7th, March 28th, and April 4th. Do I have a motion to accept?
I move to accept the 3 sets of minutes.
Second.
Further discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? The minutes have been accepted. Under communication, I am in receipt of none. Member Sands.
Mr. President, I'd like to move that we accept the auditor's reports for the months of February and March. We've been a little tardy in this.
Further discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? The auditor's reports have been accepted. Member Paul.
I have a receipt from the Athens City Planning Commission concerning the Internet Cafe business use. They covered it at the last meeting that they had, and they forwarded input to us, and we will cover that at the next committee meeting.
Thank you. Are there any other communications any member wishes to share? Reports and communications from other elected officials. Mayor Weil.
Well, I've got a few. Actually, I'd like to thank all the members of the community, Athenians, for doing the beautification day. It rained a lot. It stopped raining just in time. I know Chris and Allahu were there to watch the cleanup. It was, I don't know how many kids.
Hundreds.
Hundreds, yes.
Over 300, I think.
Wow.
Lots of good energy there, lots of good vibes. They were doing quite a bit of work there. We thought it would be, they had to move it from the Scripps Amphitheater to Bromley Hall, packed out the cafeteria there. Also, of course, just to remind everybody, there is the town hall meeting tomorrow. That's 6:30, Civility, Diversity, and Community Relations, and as I say, at the community center. A couple other announcements. There's going to be, I believe, the Take Back the Night rally in March is this Thursday, I believe, 6 p.m. So you might want to watch out for that. We're having Earth Day, of course, the Friday, the 22nd, and that's going to be closing East Union between 3 and 7. We'll start putting meters on, bags on the meters around 2, I believe, maybe 1. So just be aware of that. There's going to be an event like that. Again, to reiterate, spring cleanup last week in April is coming at us to start bagging the stuff up, 25th to 29th, as well as the hazardous waste pickup, which is the 30th that Saturday. I'd like to thank Dr. Gripper and the middle school for use of their auditorium, their facilities for High Fest. I guess the police were able to eat their pizza there because it was raining, and he was managed to open up until we had a location to actually coalesce. Also, I know on the reading tonight you have the fire ladder truck, I believe. I did talk to Dr. McDavis, President McDavis, Friday. He still can't commit to it because he's got his budget to worry about. He's meeting with the trustees, as you probably saw in the paper, sometime next week. He won't even have a budget at that point because everybody's waiting for what comes down the pike from Columbus. I mean, the conversation I had with him, he's going to sketch it out, but the actual numbers and where they end up is still nebulous. Just also as the last piece of information, we're on week 3 for the solid Tyler, the litter control officer. At this point, he's totaled 152 warnings and 76 tickets. And of course, a lot of them were put together this weekend, as you might have noticed. And that's all I really have.
Questions, comments for the mayor? City Auditor Kathy Hecht.
I would like to address one thing, the local income tax. As everyone knows, the federal IRS extended their deadline to today because of a holiday in D.C., which we don't recognize in Ohio, let alone Athens. And we did not change our filing deadline. There's no requirement for us to do that. It's also very expensive for us to go in and have the people who design our forms change those dates because it's on the forms, it's in the instructions, et cetera, et cetera. Next year we'll probably be back on this schedule again. However, and we have always exercised this, no one who mails their local income tax return today along with their federal return will be penalized by the city. We absolutely have professional discretion and have exercised that over the years, and so a few people have called about that, but just if anybody wants to know, we are not going to we won't penalize anybody, but it's not, if it were the other way around and we changed our deadline, would they call the IRS and say, hey, my local income taxes aren't due till Monday, so I don't think I should pay my federal taxes? They would not have changed theirs for us either. So anyway, so it is what it is. However, no one should worry if they just mail their taxes today. Although by the amount of tax returns we got today, I think most of them were mailed on time. Thank you.
There was an argument in our household over what day it was due, so believe me, there has been that.
I had heard that the state changed their deadline also, but we did not, but there's no penalty involved in the city.
Other questions or comments for the auditor? City Law Director Patrick Lang.
I have no items for council tonight, Mr. President.
Very good. On to ordinances for third reading. Ordinance 3111 is an ordinance authorizing street paving and repairs. Member Noisley.
Thank you, Mr. President. I move adoption of 3111.
Second.
And this is for the paving and repairs, as the title describes, of some of our streets. The street tour was conducted several weeks ago, and the final list for the streets being repaired will be made available to the public. The actual repairs will begin later this summer.
Other comments? How much money are you spending on this?
We are spending $250,000 for the streets, and then an additional $55,000 will be at the community center for some specific paving there.
Any other comments? All those in favor? Aye. Opposed? The ordinance has been adopted. On to ordinances for first reading. Ordinance 3411 is an ordinance amending Athens City Code Title 5, Public Utilities, Chapter 5.02, Garbage and Rubbish. Member Bain.
Mr. President, we are amending 1 September 1986 an ordinance on garbage licensure in the city of Athens for commercial only. We're only talking about commercial in this ordinance. Commercial has a very specific definition in our code, and if you like, I can read it in a few minutes, but I'm going to try and move through this relatively quickly. We were once haulers of commercial garbage, and we moved to a franchise licensed hauler system. And right now the solid waste district that we're a part of is moving to implement the new EPA laws, in which it's not only enough to have opportunity for recycling, we actually have to do it and report it. On the commercial side, the residential side is already reporting it. And I would note also in the whereas, it's a projection of people on the committee. I think that we will be doing commingled materials probably in 2016, which is why you may ask in a few minutes why 3 years, because we have a 3-year time in which we'll be probably more limited in our recycling opportunity. We are going to require licensure opportunities as part of the license. The licenses have been out there for 25 years, and up until now, we've not required anything. We feel the pressure of the EPA on us, and that's what we're doing this for. And we would also like to have the commercial side have the benefit of a pay-as-you-throw program, and that's part of what's going on here. Okay, so going on page one of the questions that came up was the question of 5 licenses, and some of you may have been here when we discontinued the license that was held by Mr. Makarios. And that was a long time ago, probably in a different ordinance, but we have now 4 licenses. We have a 3-year opportunity here for people. We're not changing our, if they wish, they can sign up for it. We have some deadlines in there. I guess we've learned a bit about how to do this. If they want to continue the license, then they have some deadlines to pay attention to. No more running after them 6 months later and asking them to renew their license. If you don't submit it, it'll go to someone else, that easy, or whatever these guys decide. The payment of fees is also stipulated in B. Continuing on to page 2, we have a new annual fee on the licensure. At the suggestion of one of our haulers, we were told that our fees were way too low. I wasn't told, but the safety service director was told. We also will have many new expenses associated with this. So we have a $5,000 base cost and a cubic yard cost. And we have this variable cost increase 8% for the 3-year period till we get to that magical time when there's commingled garbage facilities available at the solid waste district. We still continue something we started earlier, which is we must have the advice and consent of council for transferring a license, although that was not well understood at one point and one did get transferred. Continuing on, the licensed hauler must submit a list of licenses, Ohio licenses for trucks used in the city. And I assume that there will be some more checking on this. I believe it was in the initial ordinance 25 years ago. I don't know that it was ever implemented. The big thing in this is on the 1st of July, we want our license haulers, all 4 of them, or whatever number you choose, shall implement a collection of cardboard and aluminum recyclables and report the collected amounts to the service director as part of the annual report, and we've referenced that below. And that's the new requirement. And we're asking for some things that we will hold in confidence. That would be the name, address, amount charged. Some people are very concerned about that who are our haulers. But we're going to be able then to report to the EPA the materials that they're asking us for, to the district and then to the EPA. Now, I did a skinny little piece of paper. I had a free ream, and I've only used 2 sheets now. And I just wanted to demonstrate cardboard and why. We started with cardboard because cardboard is kind of a slow pitch. And this is what basically we're saying. If this is a hypothetical up above, let's say on an annual basis, a commercial hauler would recycle 50 tons of cardboard. Any commercial hauler, so we're going to make it vary across this. Sometimes the revenue is really poor, $40 a ton. Sometimes it's a little more. Sometimes it would be as much as $100, or actually, I've seen it be $170 a ton. The way the economy is looking, I don't see that happening anytime soon. But you see the revenue that would be earned by this, at least to start with until we take some money off, could be as much as $50,000, perhaps more, if they would pick up 500 tons of cardboard. And they would also save landfill fees. I've only used the amount that we would be charged. I'm not sure if there are deals that are available. But you could see that the savings would be substantial. So, some people are already doing this. I used a model from something I was faintly aware of, a person who is not a landfill owner nor a transfer station owner, but these are possible. It could be more. And if the market tanks again, it could be less. Okay, residential side, and if it tanks badly, they can always take it to Athens County Recycling, the cardboard, where it will be recycled because that's part of the charge of that unit. Just to compare with the residential side, $1,500 comes out of Athens City. I think our current revenue per ton for the kind of cardboard that we put together is $142 per ton. It's FOB right now. We don't pay for anything, but the purchaser pays for it. And the landfill fees are substantial, and I will say, quite honestly, the extra money that we accrue, looks like it could almost be, if it was an annual amount, $250,000 pays to recycle our nemesis, brown glass, and other things that are very less valuable to recycle. So I feel that picking cardboard and aluminum is kind of a way to get your toes wet in a good, substantially good way to do it with some benefits financially available. And this is what will be a new condition of licensure. And so it's something that individuals can decide or not decide as they please. But I think it's pretty clear if you look at the numbers that it will not, although it might be different, the new reality is upon us with respect to solid waste. If I can say, what's that word again that I just blotted it from my mind. If I can say, guys, if I can say commingled materials in 2016, then cardboard in commercial side is not so awful, is it? Anyway, I'm not saying that in a plaintive way, but this is basically what the Service Safety Director wants, and what we have developed for the commercial side. And you've all seen it several times, right? Okay. Any council members want to talk?
That's
After
ordinance
that.
3411.
Yeah.
Comments for Member Bain? Comments or questions? Anyone from the audience? Yes, sir. Please come forward to the podium. State your name and your address, and you can address council for up to 3 minutes. I'm sorry to make you do that, but those are our council rules.
I just come down here because I love speaking in front of people and cameras. Everybody knows that. I did send out a letter to, I'm Kevin, by the way, with Farmers Refuse, Kevin Farmer with Farmers Refuse. And I sent out a letter to all the council members. I didn't know, did you all receive it?
Yes, sir.
So rather than me reading everything here, you guys know where I stand on this. I see this as well, one comment I want to make, the savings on the cardboard that you mentioned. There is a lot involved here. We got fuel, we got the extra driver, we got the extra truck running around, so that's pretty much a bust. It's not like we're going to make as much money as you made it sound. So
I actually did have transport on here, I just didn't say it.
Okay. I never really understood why you're more than tripling our license fees we now pay for, what, about $2,000 for?
Well, because we should have changed them much earlier, but we actually have many more responsibilities. There's going to be more checking and more management going on.
But the checking and management comes from us, obviously. We're going to be reporting all the numbers. Basically, what we're going to be doing is doing the job for the solid waste district that they should have been doing all along. That's where this all comes from. This doesn't come from the EPA. The EPA, and I know a lot of people here don't understand it, but if you understand it like the facts state, the EPA is coming down on us because of solid waste district shortcomings over the years. Am I correct?
Well, you asked me if you're correct. I would say that I would say it slightly differently, Kevin. I would say that we, for years, reported we were doing commercial recycling without being specific, and now we must be specific.
Okay. So you know we're already implementing it, doing it at our own cost. So why do you want to make it tougher on us? I don't understand why you want to triple our license and make an 8% increase. Mm-hmm. And then the really surprising part is the blank check under
The service
Section
director?
I, the spring cleanup. I got your email, but I didn't understand because this kind of leaves that wide open as the license
I
hauler
can
will.
probably answer that. Kevin, I did send an email back to you. You probably didn't get it?
I did.
Okay, because I was telling you, you were the model for this, actually, what you've done.
Right.
So Farmers has led the pack. But we have had, on the residential side, there's been quite a bit of burden borne by the residential side with respect to large establishments. So I don't see it. Do you have any big apartment buildings that you...
Well, that's the thing. You said that in your email. I'm thinking, well, good. We don't have to worry about it. We just got to worry about our customers. But the way it's stated in here is what worries me. And unless I'm reading it wrong, it sounds like we'll be given a section of the city to do cleanup in.
Well, I would say that wouldn't. It was in the initial ordinance in '86.
Can we get some clarification on that? Because that there.
I will ask the service director, and we could. Yeah, I think that would be subject to interpretation. I think we have to leave it open because of the burden that sometimes happens with the fests and all the rest. But I think what we were thinking of when I was talking with the service director is that we would keep it in there because it is in there right now, although you've never had to do it, and keep that in there to work through the problems that we have, like when we have a jam up at the end of the year. I mean, it's hard to really imagine what the burden is with move out and so on, but I don't see it as an issue.
Okay. That's a real big concern, I think, not just for us. We got Tom here with Rumpke, Keith with Traces. I think they would agree. That's a pretty big concern of ours because we have no way of figuring what that's going to cost us and what kind of rates we're going to have to increase because of this. And like I said, I use the expression of blank check. That's what this looks like to us.
Oh, okay. And it is, I mean, honestly, it is already in the ordinance in '86. And that it hasn't been enforced is another story. I mean, we've never had to do it before. I think we would like that option. Okay. I will ask the service director if she, safety service director, the mayor, come back if we could on second reading, if there's anything you see that would be a way to make him feel better about this already existing requirement that we haven't enforced. But I don't see it as we kept it in there because we don't know what the future holds.
Well, and you got to understand where I'm coming from. It felt like we were going to be forced out here not so long ago. So I am appreciative that we're not being forced out. We're going to be able to continue.
It was never intention to force you out at all.
But now it looks like in 3 years, we're going to end up with this same, what we're leading up to here. I don't know if we're giving the solid waste district time to recoup.
No.
But then the other quick thing I had a problem with was the amount we charge. Why would you need the amount we charge? It seems like that would be confidential.
That will be held confidential. That will not be a public
just
record.
Just with you guys?
Only with one person. That would be the Assistant Safety Service Director.
Okay. So back to my original question. You're making all these changes to help promote the commercial recycling and better track it. I think that was the whole reason. I still don't understand why you got to triple our fees, put an 8% increase, so we're going to go from $2,000 to about $5,700 with about a $400 a year increase. It seems substantial to me.
And I believe that, I'll go back and say it again, I think when the service director in her discussions heard from other people that our rates were way too low. I mean, we give you a license to pick up garbage, and, we have not checked on you, although initially we thought we were on what you're charging. I think you're pretty reasonable. I think there's some variation across the landscape.
Yeah, and at the same time, I don't want to be out of competition with the solid waste district, and that's kind of where we're headed. As they get their $3 generation fee, it's going to be forced on us again, and it might go through. Then we got to raise our rates because of this, which is in turn helping them because we're doing all this administrative work to provide them with all the stuff they should have already been doing. So we got all this administrative work. We're going to increase our recycling, provide these dumpsters. This is all costing us money. In addition, you're going to triple our fees, raise us 8% every year, and possibly make us do a spring cleanup.
8%, for 2 years.
Yeah. So I'm just saying, if we can provide you with the numbers and do all this extra work and administrative fees and increase our recycling, provide those dumpsters, provide that extra fuel, can we get a break on some of this other stuff?
I would say it was quite a bargain before this time.
Well,
the cost of basically doing business.
And the sad thing is it's going to get passed on to all of us. It's going to get passed on to our local businesses.
Yeah, well, the generation fee is $1 per person. I mean, it's minor. I know that's been a sticking point, and it's
but it goes by
fight
weight.
I don't want to go through with.
But it goes by weight, so you can say it's $1 household trash, but then when you get in the heavy commercial industry, that dollar is a lot bigger number because it goes by weight. But
thank you for bringing it up. I will talk again with the service director. I think we had quite a bit of good information from one of our haulers about what they're paying in other entities. And
I don't know which one it would be. I've talked to 3 and there's only 4.
Well,
so it must be the solid waste district. I got to get
No, it isn't. I mean, maybe they're not.
Because I know you don't talk to waste management, so it can't be them.
Well, I may not talk to them.
Okay.
But somebody else might.
All right. Okay, well, it's going to be passed on to local businesses. And the local businesses, I'll use an example. My wife and I was over at the Boy Scout Awards dinner a couple weeks ago. And they're giving Larry down at Larry's Doghouse an award because he gives so much back to the community. Little League, adopting pets. You see everything in the paper all the time. So, and as I stated in my letter, I think it's time to give these local businesses a break. And these fees, these increases and everything is just going to be passed on to them. Then they're going to be passed on to us. I don't understand.
Thank you, Kevin.
Thank you.
Thanks, Kevin.
Let's try not to violate our own rule of engaging.
Yes,
an opportunity for, and you are the one that always insists that I enforce those rules.
But
there are
Kevin's
others
our
wishing
old
to speak.
friend.
Please come forth. And we did let him go for 7 minutes. But
that's because he's a good
he's
model.
Making good
he's our
points.
model.
As most of you know, I'm Tom Wallace with Rumpke Waste out of Wellston, Ohio. I too have some of the same concerns that Kevin has. I had a real concern on that cleanup paragraph. I've seen cleanups cost up to $50,000 in communities, and I surely don't want to have to absorb that.
Do you have any I'm not supposed to ask. Would you ask him if he has any large residential units?
Nancy, go ahead.
Yes, yes, we do have.
The colloquies are probably important at this point.
And the thing about it is, when that's included in there, it could become scary.
It's in there
if this
already.
whole face of this council changes, and and then somebody decides, hey, we're going to enforce this because it was in there.
It's in there right now.
I'm sorry?
It is in there right now.
I understand that, but I'm just saying, if it is ever enforced, it could be an absorbent amount.
Well, we have.
But here's the thing that you got to think about on it. Excuse me, Nancy.
That's okay.
I didn't mean to interrupt you. But if, as a residential hauler, if you're doing unlimited pickup and one large item per month, that issue shouldn't even be, it should be a moot point on unlimited trash hauling and one large item per month.
But we have, well, we have a different system. We're talking residential and you're talking commercial, so.
The other thing that I think we have an issue with, the same as Kevin did on the last line there, I think, and it might be a law director call, but I think once this reporting's done to the city, I think it becomes public record.
I'm reasonably sure you're correct.
And I'm almost 100% positive of that. And that number 4 item on there, the amount that's charged monthly, that's almost getting into a fine line item of the law on, what I can discuss with farmers or Trace or Waste Management or the Solid Waste District, because that's something that we're instructed on early in this game, something that you don't do. Have to go into a business and find out what it is, so be it. But, as far as that discussion, but that number 4 item in there is a real issue, I think.
Some of the reports have actually come back with Sharpie mark out through them that I've seen when we were trying to figure out, because it's really hard to grab this elephant and figure out where it is, the commercial hauling part of our solid waste
And
district.
the only other question...
Let me ask the mayor, would you keep that talk to the service director, make some notes so that between now and then we clarify if it's a public record or not?
We probably refer it to Pat Lang at this point.
it would be, but
could we make it?
Which is the clause?
The one about, it's on the reporting thing.
Section M, on the annual report shall include the following of each account.
There's very limited things that the city...
I would just say, but
collects
before
that-
this comes up for second reading, let's...
It's proprietary.
Yes,
That would be the...
But it would be proprietary as to a third party as opposed to something that the city was providing for itself. So we can certainly look into that prior to
Okay,
the second.
so, you've got a year before the first report is due. So that we'll take, I assume that we could designate it as proprietary, but we'll
Yes.
get our ducks in a row by next year.
Sure.
They will get their ducks in a row by next time.
And then the only other question I had, this ordinance had 5 permits in it. And to my knowledge, there's 5 haulers in town.
Well,
There's 3 of us present tonight, Waste Management and the Solid Waste District. The Solid Waste District does not have to pay a franchise fee like the rest of us do. When they've got the gravy in the downtown area and the college.
The downtown...
And I understand it's a bid item, but they also have business outside of their bid market, and they're not paying a franchise fee, and we've got to pay it, and we've got to do the reporting
A license fee?
to help the Solid Waste District.
I think that interpreting it that way is probably not very reasonable, because on the one hand, and I'm doing what Bill doesn't want me to do. On the one hand, people are complaining about the cost of cleanup, potentially. On the other hand, we have that cleanup being done by the residential side, the hazardous waste pickup that we're organizing, paid by the residential customers.
Understand that.
So, it's a more complex situation than you're depicting it as.
But I think if the Solid Waste District is capable and given the opportunity to pick up, the commercial business or the residential business outside of the franchise area, then they should be paying a portion of the franchise fee.
Thank you for your...
Thank you.
Thank you.
I'm sorry.
Are there others?
No, we're done.
Just so people understand, we do have a rule.
I know.
And,
Slap my hand.
But I'd like to use it as an educational moment for those here that are trying to figure out what I'm talking about.
It's just being...
When people come to the podium, it is with the idea that they are addressing council. It is not for us to get into an argument or a discussion. Tonight it was kind of important because some very valid points were being raised that probably should have been raised at a committee meeting, and that discussion should have happened there, but for whatever reason it didn't, and the input was worthy, so tonight we kind of bent our own rules. Rules are adopted by council, and I have to enforce them, and you look to me to enforce them, so sometimes it's hard to let it just slide without calling attention to it. But Are there any other comments? Member Fall? No?
No, she was slapping my hand.
Okay. I'll slap her face.
The mayor has something to say.
Yes, Mayor
He'll
Weil.
probably do it for you.
Okay, part of the reason why this is happening is because, again, the landscape of waste and recycling is changing. We're both part of the policy committee for the solid waste district. We have a 5-year window in which to get our numbers together for the percentage recycling versus what's thrown in the landfill. We've never had adequate numbers before. We need to change that and do better accounting. We are part of the solid waste district, but we are not in control of the solid waste district. It's the county commissioners who are in control of the solid waste district. We are responding to what's going on. We are anticipating the needs at this point. If you look when Mr. Booker shows up from the EPA and says that the solid waste district is not making their goals and that he is concerned, having been through the EPA, we get concerned, probably more so than the county commissioners. Okay? Having been burnt once.
Once?
Okay.
A
So far.
20-year burn.
So far.
A slow burn.
Slow burn, okay. So we're trying to get this a little bit tighter. Realize it's 1986, if I understand this correctly. It hasn't been modified that much except for the number of people in there. Section I is not so much for council to enforce it, but the administration to enforce it. Pretty much that's where it stands at this point. If the cost has gone up quite a bit since '86, I would not be surprised. We have other issues as well. We have a right-of-way issue with the AEP, American Electric Power, about use of the trimming the trees. We're trying to modify that since in 25 years you think some of the concerns have changed over 25 years. Same thing with this. Okay, so this is what we've put together. We've had how many committee meetings at this point? 2 or 3 of these?
3 or 4.
3 or 4.
Several.
Okay. Again, we don't have a good number of how many trucks are running in the city often, how many times they're running in the city at any particular place. I know some places the dumpsters just fill up all the way to the top. It seems they maybe pick them up once a week. Commercial side. Other ones are picked up more often. We don't know how many trucks are tearing up our roads at this point. So these are the things we're trying to address.
And I guess if I could continue my educational moments just a little bit longer, that's also why you see 3 readings. Council rules provide that things are brought up for 3 different readings before they are adopted unless we suspend our own rules for some reason. So it does allow input from people, and it does make the final product a lot better. So anyway, that's kind of what you've seen here tonight. On to Ordinance 3511. It's an ordinance accepting a donation made by the Gawande family of approximately 5 acres on Cardiff Lane to remain as undeveloped parkland. Member Fall.
Thank you, President Bias. Something completely easy and very, I think very nice for the City Council is to accept the donation by the very generous Gawande family of 5 acres that are on the Cardiff Lane. It's intended to remain as open space, woodland wildlife preserve, to be open for biking, hiking, and walking trails. However, the size of the area pretty much limits the amount of recreational use that would be on it. It says that the city can plant trees to prevent soil erosion, and this park will remain undeveloped, meaning that there's not going to be playgrounds or gazebos, those sort of things on it. And I would like to take this time to thank the Gawande family for their very generous offer and their city spirit for donating this property to the city.
Further comments on Ordinance 35? Yes.
No, I just wanted to mention that Section 2 mentioned real estate taxes. This city will be paying taxes on this property commencing at the end of this year.
Yes, and however, it is undeveloped, so it will be minimal taxes.
But it's
like the other property value.
we won't be taking it off. We won't be taking it off.
We will never be taking it off the books?
No.
No, eventually, but not
Okay.
right away. And because we're
Okay.
not taking possession until this year, we will have to pay this year's taxes.
Yes.
And then, as you know, it's a 2 to 3 year process to get off the rolls, but then we get the taxes back.
Okay.
I don't think we would have the option to not take it off the books, would we?
We're not doing anything that's
Yeah.
monetary,
That's the usual process.
And I'd like to just add, I know the map is kind of dark there, but if you go into the city's GIS and just plug in the parcel number, you should be able to find a nice picture of it.
Yeah, thank
Okay.
you.
Other comments? Ordinance 3611 is an ordinance amending the 2011 appropriation ordinance. Member Sands.
Mr. President, this is amending the appropriation ordinance to add $15,000 to the Athens Enhancement Fund for the paint program. This is a program that we've had active in the city in the past. It offers substantial financial help to citizens who are of low and moderate income in painting their houses, and we have in the past expanded it so that painting and necessary repairs to the eaves, et cetera, would be included in that amount.
Other comments? Mayor Weil.
Okay, again, last year we did not do any painting. The year before we did 2. Our average is about maybe 3 houses, about $5,000 per house, depending. It's home ownership, it's requirement, as well as a cutoff for low and moderate income. I don't know what the percentage is above the levels. We usually run it through the code office, so that's the office to actually address it. They usually are the ones to bring it up because they're out there on the streets and they see somebody who needs help on a little bit of repair, as you said, or painting, and that's where it comes into play. We didn't push it hard last year. I did not really put it into the budget per se this year, but at the same time, it is for enhancing the city.
Other comments? Member Butler.
Thank you, Mayor, for explaining that. So if someone was interested in applying for this, they should go to the code office and there'll be a form that they can
Yes.
complete?
Yes.
Okay.
And they can do that. And when we run out of money, we either have to make a choice of getting more, appropriating more. Depends on how our budget looks, or wait till next year.
Thank you.
Other comments? Ordinance 3711 is an ordinance authorizing a contract with the Washington County Commissioners and declaring an emergency. Member Bain.
3711 is a contract that we will make official, something we've done already. We have often the necessity, not often, but occasionally the necessity to move prisoners around. The following pages will talk about the contract that the city will have with the Sheriff of Washington County to use his facilities to keep prisoners that we have for $60,000 per day.
No,
$60,000
60 per day.
Oh.
Yeah.
I'm still smarting from the last time, Bill. You better watch it.
Member Bain, I understand we may need to move for suspension on this.
Oh, you mean people are... All I was told is I had to do a contract. I mean, do an ordinance. I had no idea it was
You've
4
been
pages
blindsided
long.
with this, and now I'm
Yes, and now you're
continuing to
saying
chastise you.
suspend the rules on 3711. Joy,
Motion and a second. The reason for suspension.
I have no idea.
Why
Just
is
trying to get
that?
this in motion. Actually, they've never asked for one before. We usually use our overflow for, we have to do the regional jail. If we have an overflow, they end up at Washington County. I believe they just want to make sure, I guess the concern is that we had not a fixed agreement, and they want to get it
I
set
said
up
that.
as fast as
I knew
possible.
In
that.
preparation for fest time?
No, I don't think so, not for fest time. I think
Halloween.
I think they're just doing a lot of bean counting over in Washington County, and they realize that they don't have everything squared away like they'd like it to. And this is
Okay.
one thing that they needed to have
Okay.
as fast as possible.
Well, we still don't know why we need a suspension, but I
Because
guess
Fast as
they
possible.
want
fast as
it.
possible.
Yes.
They want it.
The
because they
contracting
want it.
body wants it immediately. We're using it already.
We better
Make it
suspend. Is there
real.
further discussion on suspension? All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Rules are suspended.
Move adoption.
Second.
3711. 4 pages long. And we can see in there again our $6,000, $60,000, $60 charge per person. Page 2. No, actually. All persons transported will be charged, they spell it out, $60 per day per person incarcerated, and the conditions under which this will happen. With a little bit of luck, we may not have to use it. But it's 100 miles, that was my comment, 100 miles to do this.
Are there other comments? Mayor Weil.
Again, this has to deal with the overflow. When we do have an overflow, we have, if I remember, I forget how many beds, 70 or 80, I think, that we actually have rented at our regional jail. But when we go over that, we can actually fill up the other beds that are empty from the other counties. But if they're full and we go over our quota, it has to be bumped somewhere else. And this is, of course, the last resort, the nearest jail. And I say, it's been an informal agreement for the past couple of years, the way I understand it, as long as the regional jail has been operating. But again, I think it has to be, they were just trying to make it formal, because they probably looked at their books and they said, okay, how do we make sure this works?
And it is for those situations where there are just physically no beds available at the region.
Extraordinary.
Yeah.
Extraordinary.
Okay, further comments? All in favor of adoption of the ordinance?
Aye.
Opposed? Ordinance 3711 has been adopted. Ordinance 3811 is an ordinance authorizing the mayor to enter into a 4-year capital and operating plan with the Ohio Department of Transportation. Member Nisley.
Thank you, Mr. President. This ordinance will actually replace an existing ordinance that we have. We have a plan in effect right now for 2010 through 13, and we need this long-range plan with the Ohio Department of Transportation so that our plans are in order when we file for grants for repair of our roads. So the Department of Transportation is now requesting that we have a capital plan in place that will cover the years 2012 through 2015. So that's the purpose of this new ordinance.
And I have been informed by the clerk that you too need to suspend on this.
Mr. President,
Yes.
I move that we suspend this ordinance.
3811. And the reason is?
We need every week, it's not often enough.
I believe the Ohio Department of Transportation
want
is
it now.
requesting this capital plan immediately.
Okay.
And that impinges, that could affect our grant applications.
That's very important. Further discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? The rules have been suspended on ordinance 3811.
Mr. President, I move adoption of 3811.
Second.
Okay, and we've had an explanation. This will provide the Department of Transportation with a 4-year capital and operating plan, 2012 through 2015.
Further discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Ordinance 3811 has been adopted. Ordinance 3911 is an ordinance determining to proceed with sidewalk construction on Mill Street as described in Resolution R1011 and declaring an emergency. Member Nisley.
Thank you, Mr. President. We've talked about the Mill Street improvements that will be taking place this year. This is part of a larger project for which we're getting CDBG, Community Development Block Grant funds. And as part of that, as we're doing utilities and street repairs, we will also be repairing the sidewalk. It makes sense. We had an ordinance, as the President referred to, passed earlier this year, Resolution 111, and that was adopted on January 31st. And that declared the necessity to replace a portion of the sidewalks. The sidewalks on Mill Street that we're going to be repairing, and which will make it possible with this ordinance, is Mill Street, and it's between Lash Street and North McKinley Avenue. And this is part of our sanitary sewer improvements project.
Further discussion? On to ordinance 4011, an ordinance providing for the issuance of not to exceed $1 million of notes by the City of Athens, Ohio, in anticipation of the issuance of bonds for the purpose of paying part of the cost of acquiring a new fire truck and related equipment and declaring an emergency. Member Kuhn.
Thank you, Mr. President. This ordinance and the next ordinance are regarding the purchase of the new ladder truck. And Auditor Heck has spoken with the bond counsel, who indicated that we need to have this ordinance, that it's been done in the past. And I'm going to ask the auditor to explain it a little bit.
Well, basically, I called him after council met last week and made the decision to possibly borrow up to $1 million, and talked to him about the ordinance that was going through, which we also need with the authorization and authority to borrow. However, this ordinance also kind of covers us, and me in particular. When you have authority to borrow, you also have to have something in writing saying that you have the money. We have it on lots of our forms, that we either have the money in the treasury or it is in the process of being collected. And so with all of the other stuff that the bond counsel always puts in his ordinances, this really just covers us, instead of just telling me I can run out and borrow $1 million.
Thank you.
Thank you.
And it also does have an emergency clause, because we do have the bid problem that we do need to take care of.
Right,
that.
and I believe he said he was going to leave it vague and just up to, as council has done, until I have the instruction of exactly how much you want me to borrow. So.
Okay, thank you.
I don't understand. I have to ask her a question. Does this preclude borrowing from a local bank?
No.
It's language I've seen before, but I just wonder what she's
Right,
sure.
it is, and I talked to him about that, but he is very aware and has told me many times how lucky we are to have a local bank that supports us, and for this amount of money, he can help us with that also.
Thanks.
Other comments? Ordinance 4111 is an ordinance authorizing the Service Safety Director to enter into a contract with the Shut Pen Corporation to purchase a fire ladder truck and declaring an emergency. Again, Member Kuhn.
Thank you, President Bias. As the caption said, this Section 1 authorizes the Service Safety Director to enter into a contract with the Suffin Corporation to purchase a ladder truck. Section 2 authorizes the Service Safety Director to expend up to, and this is $1,133,458 from Capital Improvements Fund 580 for said purchase. We don't intend to borrow that much money, but the reason for the increased amount, it has to include the interest, and there's a 10% contingency in case there are unexpected expenses.
Additional costs. I recommended that.
Bond initiation, too.
But yeah.
Bond initiation.
Right.
Also,
So there are fees,
Yeah.
like our bond counsel fees and the interest. We don't know what our interest rate is going to be yet, and so my recommendation was bump it up 10%. So the Service Safety Director has the authority and is covered, so that she isn't limited by a lower amount. And when all is said and done, she needs to spend more. Doesn't mean she will have to spend this full amount.
And it doesn't mean she's going to borrow that
Right.
much money.
Right. No. We know we're not borrowing over $1 million to begin with.
Member Bang.
Once again, we have a firm bid, and we sat here with Captain and Fire Chief and talked about each thing, and it got down to $1,030,000. If this is more than bond counsel, that'd be, if we add something to it, I will feel a little bit betrayed, I guess. Because I think that we made a systematic effort to do that. It was long and boring, I know, but we did do it.
Right. Well, it would be bond counsel and interest. I guess.
Okay.
I don't think you could spend more without having to,
Yeah.
we'd have to bump up this particular authorization too, because this is including the initiation of the bond counsel, and the interest all in one. I would assume that we want to put some kind of down payment down, not the whole 640, but something. And it's probably a discussion that will have to occur at a committee.
So the bake sale will be next week.
The what? The bake sale? Yeah.
133.
And then Section 3 does include the emergency clause to meet the extended bid deadline.
Other comments? Under resolutions for first reading, Resolution 1011 is a resolution indicating the services that the City of Athens will provide for the proposed annexation of approximately 40.651 acres on Good Drive. We've got a typo. It is Cook Drive, as requested by the annexation petitioner and declaring an emergency, introduced by members Fall and Bain. Member Fall?
Thank you. Actually, I'd like to ask for a suspension of the rules tonight. This petition is being put forward to the county commissioners, and it needs to be heard and passed 20 days in advance of that.
Second.
Motion and second for suspension of the rules on Resolution 10. Further discussion? All those in... Member...
I just have a question. This was the only condition that was the only condition that was assigned when we discussed this
This is
last week?
the process of annexation. The county commissioners need to have this particular resolution before they hear the annexation.
Okay.
Just to be totally clear, yeah, we're not annexing anything.
We're not annexing
Just
tonight.
Only saying what services we would
Right.
provide.
Okay. Thank
But they
you.
need to have an indication that we're willing to provide services before they even entertain the idea of releasing it for annexation.
Okay. Thank you for clarification.
Other comments? All those in favor of suspension of the rules?
Aye.
Opposed? The rules are suspended.
I move that we adopt the resolution 1011.
Do we have a second?
Second.
This has been put forward in committee. We've talked about it. I would like to point out as the first whereas, it's the only whereas, that the City Council
The only
expects the annexation of the remaining 30 acres adjacent to this annexation before probably we accept any sort of annexation. This is a multi-step process that we go through. First is, it's like a dance with the county commissioners and other commissioners. We have to do certain things, and then they look at it in the public hearing, and then they make their recommendation, and then we go through the annexation itself. Zoning itself will go in front of Planning Commission. They will make their recommendation to us before we do the final annexation ordinance. And we have pretty emphatically stated that we expect the annexation of the remaining 30 acres to go through at some point with this process.
Member Bain.
I would like to be more emphatic than at some point. I would like to say that before we do the final reading, we have an annexation of 70.651 acres. No more, no less.
Before the
final thing. That's, I mean, we're not, there's no such thing as zoning outside the city limits. You can't zone it open space if it's the county land. I mean, it's that simple.
Right. So
It's not you, it's the way this is done. Thank you.
Other comments? Give us your name, Mr. Spezza, and your address, please.
Mark Spezza, 240 Estates Drive, and I've put forth the petition and would like to address the council. Appreciate suspension of the rules. I would like to let the council know that the survey of the 30 acres has been started, and that petition will be applied for as soon as we have a legal description for it.
Great. Thank you. We appreciate that. Thank you.
Thank you. Are we up to adoption, I believe? Is there further comments at all? All those in favor of adoption of Resolution 1011?
Aye.
Opposed? The resolution has been adopted. Into announcements and other business. Any announcements people wish to make? Member Bain.
Well, first of all, I would like to ask the clerk to get you a copy of the meeting last week so you can see exactly what we went through in our discussion of this situation with respect to garbage. It might help because you weren't here to see that. because you left. Okay, the second thing, and it wasn't an easy thing to do at all. All right, the second thing I would like is a meeting next week, if two other people will agree with me, and we can do because the service director needs, although we had a hard time getting it done, 3411.
I agree.
Okay.
Other comments, other meetings next week?
I would like a committee meeting on planning and development.
Planning and development?
Please.
Finance? Chris?
Streets and utilities.
Yes, and we would like it first, right after the meeting. We're going to have Andy Stone come in and talk about our next big thing. And give you a week or two to consider it. The sewer upgrade, primary mostly. And so, and if we get him here early, it'll be better. We'll be better served.
Any other announcements? Opportunity for citizens to speak on legislative items and city services that we did not cover on tonight's agenda. Is there anyone wishing to speak before council? Give us your name and address, and you're welcome to speak for 3 minutes.
Good evening. My name is Lucas Bechtel. I'm 15 South Schaefer Street. I am the news editor for College Green Magazine. I am here. I'd like to invite the Athens City Council, as well as Mayor Paul Weil, Editor Hecht, and anybody else in this room to an event that our public is on this Wednesday, April 20th. It will be a viewing of the Academy Award nominated documentary Gasland about hydraulic fracturing, also known as fracking. It will be followed by a Q&A with the director. The documentary itself deals with the possible environmental effects of fracking, and we believe that it is an important thing for us in this area to consider right now, as there is the possibility of fracking happening in the southeast Ohio area to get into the Marcellus and Utica shale deposits for natural gas. So we believe this would be a good way to start or at least continue the discussion. It will be, like I said, this Wednesday, April 20th, at Templeton Blackburn Alumni Memorial Auditorium on OU's campus at 8 to 10:30, and admission is free. So, thank you.
And the public is invited?
Yes, the public is
Besides
invited.
just us? Okay.
Yeah.
Thank you.
There's a lot of interest in this. We have had quite a few emails sent to council members really encouraging us to attend. So thank you.
Thank you.
Is there others wishing to speak before council tonight? Seeing none and having addressed all items on our agenda, we stand adjourned.